And we would also like for everyone to be very respectful of each and every one of us here, comments and how we maybe ask questions or just respond to questions. So first off, just to know ourselves, we would like for everyone here to to introduce yourself, where you're calling in from, your organization, a bit about yourself, how's the weather like for you over there in your country. So I'm going to start first. My name is Hope Lekwa, and I am currently calling from Lagos in Nigeria, and it's a bit hot. It's a bit hot, but we've had colder time, but now it's a bit hot, and I'm feeling excited about this research, this document that we're going to launch today. So that's about my, so my expectation for this is for us to show commitments to this declaration. And yeah, that's a bit that. And for me, one simple thing that I like to do to keep my mental health in check is I like to take long walks. So yeah, I take that a lot. So we could let's engage in the chats, these questions that's on our screen right now. Oh, I see Flavia from Tanzania. Welcome, Flavia. I see Adi from Indonesia. The weather is a bit chill since it's the evening and winter in the southern hemisphere. Okay, nice, nice. This is just for us to just, know ourselves, even though we might not be able to know in depthly ourselves, but in a bit to know who is on the call with us. You could just introduce yourself, tell us about yourself, and also you could answer the questions on on your screens. Hello, Abdulhamid from Nigeria. What part of Nigeria are you calling from, Abdulhamid?
Do you want me to speak?
No, you could use, no, please
Okay,
use
so
the
thank you.
chats. Yeah. Erin David just says he's a social worker from South Africa and he works at Cape Mental Health. It's very cool in Cape Town, South Africa. Nice to meet you, Erin. Okay, we could continue doing that while I take us straight into. Nice to meet everyone. Nice to meet you, Tamzir, Salah, and also nice to meet you, Flavia, as well. So we'll go on to the next section in the agenda, which is to talk about. So pretty much, Sustainable Bible is a youth organization making sustainability actionable and relevant in Nigeria, and we've been together. We're coming to that been together since 2016. And our focus areas are in education, education for sustainable development, ecofeminism, building community advocacy, and as well circularity and climate change and mental health. We also have a standalone project called the Eco Anxiety Africa that was founded in 2022 to address the knowledge gap in climate change and mental health in Africa. The project aims to understand and validate these realities for Africans by Africans. And we do this through four major categories. First of which is research, in the research that we do with organizations and even inside as well. We have space making where we host Zen events where we just talk about our feelings, our realities with climate change and mental health. We also have community action rather as our focus area, and as well as climate aware psychotherapy. So now talking more on just going into this project that bore the outputs of the youth declaration that we're about to launch today. The project is called the Connecting Climate Minds Project, led by the Imperial by Climate Center at the Imperial College in London. And it's an initiative aimed to foster connection between people around the world to understand and respond to deeper interconnections or intersectionalities of climate change and mental health. And ideally, the project has quite a few goals, but just talking about two of them, which was one is to develop an ambitious, inclusive agenda for research priorities in climate change and mental health. Essentially, what that means is it is trying to create a research and action agenda for climate change and mental health. And secondly, it also aims at creating a community a connected community of practice where people can talk about these issues and enact into their policies or their separate you know organizations this agenda that we released. So the project had three major outputs. First of which is the global research agenda, which was the compilation of every of the research agenda that was created in the project. And then it also had a regional research agenda where we had an action agenda for each of the regions of the world. And second, and lastly, we had a thematic agenda where we had specific documents or research agendas that were specific to different themes. Ours, particularly for social development and for force of nature, was the youth thematic agenda. We also had a research agenda for indigenous people, and we also had for fishermen and farmers. So now talking about our focus here, which is the youth thematic research and action agenda. Essentially, it was created by Sustainable and Force of Nature to address the intersectionalities or the intersectional issues in climate change and mental health that young people face. And we did this by having a global dialogue. And so we had a global dialogue over virtually, and we had hundreds of participants joining, all young people, of course. And we also had dialogues in Nigeria and as well as in Nigeria and Port Harcourt, and as well as in India as well, Bangalore, India, where we had young people talk about what it is to be a young person in this changing world, which with regards to how your mental health is impacted by climate change. And we had a dialogue go on for meetings for a long while. It was a very interesting dialogue filled with a lot of insightful knowledge and wisdom. It wasn't just a dialogue that was explode that was what's the word now, that was extractive. Yeah, that's the word. It wasn't extractive. It was more of exploratory. We wanted to explore and know what it was like for young people in different parts of the world to be at to be at a certain stage where their mental health is probably or probably not impacted by climate change. And having already had the discussions in these different regions, we outlined 63 priority research agendas, and these research themes rather were gotten from the dialogues that were transcribed. So having read through the dialogues from the global dialogue and as well from the dialogues in Nigeria and India, we read through the dialogues and we were able to bring out 63 research themes from these dialogues, of which were all categorized into four key areas, right? So, or categorized under four key areas rather. And the first of which was impact, risk, and vulnerable groups. And now the reason why we had this research priority area was to understand how climate change was affecting people's mental health, particularly among the young population. We want to explore the impact, risk, and the vulnerabilities that young people face in climate change and mental health. And another key focus area or priority area was the pathway and mechanism. Here, we wanted to understand the pathways that led to these disruptions. We wanted to understand the social and economic disruptions that caused caused by climate event that exacerbated mental health challenges in young people. And of course, we're going to go into some of the key findings that we found, right? And the third research priority was mental health benefits of climate action. Here we investigated how engaging in climate action can positively or even negatively influence mental health. You know, it can be very draining to be a climate actor in a world where it seems like your issues are bigger than your bigger than how you can even prefer solutions. So we wanted to investigate how it was like as a young person, you know, involved in that space. And also, finally, the we also wanted to understand uh, the mental health intervention that young people actually implemented themselves or even subconsciously just live through. We identified effective therapeutic interventions and support systems that young people actually implemented while facing climate-related mental health issues. And we had a lot of key findings, and some of the key findings of which you can find them all on the Cognitive Climate Minds, website under the CCM Hub. Some of the key findings was that first of all, it was noted that climate-related factor, including air pollution rather, economic disruptions and forced migration are significant pathways that connected climate events to mental health challenges for young people. That is to say that there was a lot of visible connection with how air pollution was rampant or the economic disruption in a particular place or even forced migration was a carrier of this difficulty in dealing with mental health challenges caused by climate change. As well as another key finding was the fact that engaging in climate action was seen to be both beneficial. However, it also caused burnout in climate activism for young people. And I'm sure many of us here can actually experience, can actually attest to that rather. You know, we had young people talking about the fact that, yes, my climate action is useful, but at the end of the day, I still feel very tired. I feel like, my work is not enough and I'm not doing enough, right? Another key finding that we also saw was that young people really yearn to be involved in policy making processes because we believe that, our lived experiences are unique and are needed in policies, really. They are unique and are both relevant at the same time and we need to implement those realities into policies. And another key finding that we found was that there was an increased call for investment in climate-related mental health services for young people facing these challenges, right? So ideally, I don't know how it is in the Western world, but in many African countries, there aren't a lot of investment for climate-related mental health services, and that was what young people wanted to talk about. Wanted to bring to the fore. Not just talks, but we need to see people put their money where their mouth is or where their allegiance is really, where their support is. And finally, in these few key findings, we also found out that there was a need to understand the developmental stages and socioeconomic factors that affected young people experiencing climate change and mental health. What this means is we needed to be able to find out the developmental stages, for example, uh, you know, when a person transitions from being a teen to an adolescent or from a teen to an adult, or even for a lady, during your menstrual flow, how all of these things are compounded upon by climate change and how it all affects your mental health. Because of course, what is a fact is that there is a connection between all of these little, or not little per se, but all of these hidden nuances. There is a definite connection with these nuances with how young people experience climate change and mental health. So we needed to actually explore these things, and there was a need to understand even that even deeply. So now we're going into the youth declaration, which, like as Petlana said earlier, was another output of the youth thematic research and action agenda, where we had young people talk about, their aspirations, their their hopes, for a young person or for even just, in climate change and mental health space. So, as it was said earlier, the Youth Declaration from the CCM project was represented by young people from diverse socioeconomic backgrounds and cultural backgrounds too, across 23 countries. And like I said earlier, we held a dialogue in India and as well in Nigeria. And we had participants share their perspectives and their lived experiences on the intersection of climate change and mental health. And now we gathered some aspirations, and some of which were hope, resilience, and sustainability, where the young people aspire to live in a world where, climate changes or mental health challenges rather inspired collective action and empowered leaders to implement youth-centered mental health services that can, at the end, now foster, hope and resilience in a world where it just seems as if mental health is on the decline because of the apparent impact of climate change on our environment and on everything that we consider, So we need young people aspired for hope, resilience, and sustainability. So, like I said, these were all deduced from the dialogues that we had in the transcripts that were the discussions that we had in the dialogue rather. And another aspiration that was discovered was the need to prioritize lived experiences, inclusion, and also autonomy. Here we discussed or we found out that young people desire to create a community where the voices of themselves, of young people, are not only heard, but essential in shaping climate change and mental health research, ensuring that their lived experiences are relevant and are included in these policies. And they also have the autonomy to tell their stories without fear or shame or of any stigma. And we also had young people, desire a world where, we cultivated a vibrant environment where there was, freedom and healthy environment surrounded by resilient ecosystems and clean air to ensure safe and thriving communities. So now I'll be going into the recommendations that were discovered or that were found out from the dialogues that we had. So first of which, or not first rather, because this was, I decided these are just bit-sized recommendations from the actual document. So the first recommendation on your screen here reads that there was a need to recognize the role of youth-led entities in building safer and more sustainable society and support their continued development, much said as it is. Now, here we see that young people, recognize that there was a need for youth-led entities to build. It's because, it's, and I'm pretty appreciative of this, where young people are even taking the initiative, but we want to see more of this, where young people are taking the actions to build the desired future, starting from an organization that they want, to be now widespread into international growth. And now, the second recommendation that's on your screen right here says that there was a need to sensitize communities to enable young people to better cope with the trauma and instability caused by environmental disasters. Here we were talking about the young people pretty much emphasize the need for communities to be able to or communities to have certain systems or structures that are able to deal with the trauma and instability caused by environmental disasters. Not to mean that these are not not to mean that they are new, but it is to say that as it already is, and as the world is changing and as climate change continues to persist, there will be continued traumas, there will be continued instability. And so we need to already have a system that already helps people better cope with these traumas and instability caused by climate change. This is part of the recommendations that were discovered. Thirdly, there was a need to provide a timely and adequate support for creating a conducive environment for thriving. ideally what this means is that we needed to, the young people thought it important to create structures and systems that had timely interventions for young people. So, and when you have timely intervention, of course, it increases the ability for people to be resilient and thrive. Because lots of times, when some issue happen because of environmental disasters in whatever location that you may be in, you know, there aren't a lot of timely and adequate support. Many times, I've read transcripts and I've listened into people's complaint, and they say the support that they get is months after the impact had happened already, and so they need timely and adequate support. And much like the third point, they also talked about the need to embed mental health and psychosocial support into climate policies and programs. Ideally, it's not enough for climate change policies to just focus on the environment. It's not enough for climate policies to just focus on the economic side of it or the cultural side of it. But it's important for climate change policies to also be aware of the mental health toll and be able to have policies and programs that take into considerations those issues in mental health, really. And fifth, on our screen is the need to support research in climate change and mental health and lived experience research to identify targeted interventions. Ideally, what we're trying to say here is research in climate change and mental health for Africa, for a certain that I know of, is very limited. And as it is limited, it creates another problem uh, of of not targeted intervention, or no little to zero to a limited limit of zero to a limited intervention rather. And so we need to have more research in this space, even digging deeper into the nuances of culture, of traditions, of people's history, of genders, really, of how different genders respond to climate change and mental health impact, how different socioeconomic classes respond to climate change impacts on mental health, how the role of spirituality, in how people respond to climate change and mental health. So we need more research into this space to be able to identify this issue and of course now provide targeted interventions. Like the fifth point, we also saw that young people, talked about they need to invest in trainings, innovations, and data gathering initiative to address local challenges, much like what I have just said in the fifth point. Um, while we are creating this, while we are doing more of this research, we need to have trainings for mental health practitioners, mental health support practitioners rather, and we need to have training system, training programs, and also, community interventions really that help address these local challenges, because it's not enough to have global research. We need to have local researches too that are able to hit the nuances and the nitty-gritties that climate change and mental health, reaches too. Another very important recommendation was that there was a need, or there is a need rather, to train community members. You don't have to be an expert, to be able to know how to respond to someone's mental health breakdown because of climate change, because of the change in the environment, because of an environmental disaster. You don't have to wait for an expert to come before you know how to respond. So we need to train community members to deliver interventions for populations who are at risk after acute events of climate impact. On the seventh point, or eighth point, we see a need to promote equitable access to climate financing and supporting youth-led projects, focusing on climate resilience and sustainability. Ideally, what we're trying to communicate here is that we need, as much as all of these plans are very, these recommendations are very interesting, it still requires climate financing. It requires financing to bring these realities to the front, right? So we also need to support more youth-led organizations, right? Because young people have, and I'm saying this from experience as well, young people have a very interesting insight to issues and dealing with those issues too. And so we need to support and finance those initiatives and programs that that propel young people's voices and projects in climate change and sustainability. And ultimately, it was said that there was a need to integrate youth perspectives in resilience and adaptation plans and ensure their involvement in decision-making practices. Now, recall that when I was talking about the declaration, part of the things or the findings that were there was that young people yearn for their experiences and for their experiences and realities to be called upon into policy making and decision making offices or processes, really. So we envision a future where before any policy is enacted, it must first of all, not as a matter of suggestion, but as a mandatory process, have a youth insight into that policy. Because if for a policy to be holistic, the it needs to reach all the influencing factors or all the influential persons in the community, which includes young people, elderly people, people with disabilities, and all sorts really. So young people yearn for a a future where decision making and policy making practices are first of all mandatorily you know taken into the consideration of young people's insight and wisdom really. And finally, but not finally, but on the slide on your screen, you see that our recommendation was also to encourage young people to share their knowledge and experiences through inclusive networking platforms, really. And what this is trying to say is that while there is work going on in the official side of it, you know, we need young people to talk more about these things in their spaces, in whatever gathering that they are at, be able to share their knowledge and experiences. And this just helps people be more aware of how this climate change and mental health influences young people. So, like I said earlier, this is a declaration, right? And we need the support of each and everyone on this call here. We need the support of each and everyone here on this call. And how that can be done is via three simple steps, which is first of all, if you might have seen or you might have gotten a mail inviting you to this declaration launch, there was a link that was shared that gave you access to this document, that gave access to the youth declaration itself, where young people can be, where you can, you can be able to read and understand even in depthly these recommendations and the aspirations that we gathered from the youth thematic research and action agenda. So first of all, what you just need to do is to read through the declaration, and if you're in full support, if you really support this document, put in your name and scroll down to submit your commitment here, like it is here on the slides here. Submit your commitment, fill in your name. So once you click on this, submit your commitment, it take you to a what's it called now? A Qualtrics link here. That has some information you might need to fill. It's literally just your name. I don't think your name is even required, but it's just simple steps. You should be able to fill the form in about 30 seconds, really. So um, that's about that. And you might ask the reason why we are requesting for your commitment. I think it's very needed because of, first of, the advocacy of it and the awareness of it, really. We need to spread more awareness on this issue, really. And for some of us that might be here, you might be working in some organization that maybe helps review policies or maybe just draft policies for implementation. This is something that you can take into consideration while you're creating your policies, really. And so this is a policy recommendation document. You might want to see it as that too. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So if anyone has questions, we can ask. I'll just leave it on here for about 5 minutes. If anyone has a question, they could be able to ask. Okay. The link to the declaration. Okay, I'll see if I can get that, but I'm not too sure. But let me see if I can get that for you. But meanwhile, if anyone has a question, yeah, please go ahead, Toby.
Hi. Thanks for the presentation and everything. I think my question was also in relation to Miguel's question regarding the link, because I'm not sure I got an email for that.
Okay, I'll be sharing the link right about now.
Thank you.
All right, so the link has been shared. So yeah, if there are no more questions, uh, so Tola, I think you can continue from.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much for everyone who has joined and is a part of this call. Now we've reached the end. It's just to remind young people that we have a lot of power and our voices are really important. And things like the Youth Declaration is a great way for our voices to be shared. And please, if everyone is able to sign the Youth Declaration and follow that link, it'll be really good for us, because our hope in the work that we do is that when we continue to make this research, we can eventually influence policy. And in that way, please continue to support the work of Susty Vibes and the Eco Anxiety Africa project as we try to make sure that African voices from the global south, are at the center of what we do, and we make sure that solutions actually serve the communities that are facing the brunt of climate change. So please do make that commitment, and thank you so much for joining this call. Lekwa, please share anything else.
Thank you very much, Svetlana. So that's all for today. So in case you have any questions, I'm sure Sosivel have been sending you emails regarding this event. So in case you have any questions, you can, of course, reply to any of the mails, and we'll definitely be able to support you or help you or guide you in filling out or in supporting this, in ways to support this youth declaration. But I have to say a big thank you to you all that joined. I'm guessing, I know you guys all had busy schedules, and thank you all for taking the time out to be here. Thank you very much, guys.
Hey, Mr. Tallyman, how many times have I broke my heart? How many times have I played a part that I wasn't cast? Hey, Mr. Tallyman, how many times do we act a fool? Saying we don't know what to do when the odds that sits beside us. Oh, the birds in the sky fly high, so high. I want to fly away, fly away. Oh, the birds in the sky fly high, so high. I want to fly away, fly away. Oh.